So I was working in 2015 with a football team. I was an S&C coach, and one of the players came up to me during the pre-season period and says, look, I want to really get in the shape of my life here. So I said, no worries, I'll help you out with a gym programme. I gave him a nutrition plan, and obviously the squad stuff I was taking care of anyway as part of my coaching role. So over about 3 or 4 weeks, they contacted me and says, look, I'm flying, I feel brilliant, but I want to do more. My suggestion was, don't do more right now, it's pre-season, all your loads taken care of. Just keep doing what you're doing because you feel good, you're looking good in the pitch, and then over time you'll get better and better. But then he says, look, there's a local boot camp where I'm living just now in Bondi. Is there any chance I can do this boot camp session? And I asked when it was. They told me it was a Friday and a Monday. I told them, don't bother, it's the day before our game and it's 48 hours after our game. That's when your 2 sessions are. It's not going to be very useful for you. It's just more extra training that you don't need, and it's eating into your recovery. A week later, on the Saturday game day, I see him in the warm-up hobbling around. I ask him what's wrong with him. He looks a little bit sluggish. He sort of swells my questioning, but one of the other players tell me that he actually went to the boot camp the day before. I asked him what he'd done. He says, oh, we did a lot of deadlifts, really high volume deadlifts and lunges and some Olympic lift variations and some burpees conditioning. Listed off this big long list of exercises that were not suitable for what he was doing in his training week. So I suggested maybe miss the game here because your body's going to be very fatigued and you could be at risk of pulling something. He ignored my advice. We went out and played. 15 minutes into the game, he comes off, pulled hamstring. He ended up out for 8 weeks at that period. After this happened, I had to sit down with him, we had a big discussion, and I wanted to just mainly know what caused him to want to do extra when he had everything he needed right in front of him. And basically he said he was confused. He went online after getting some improvements in his programme. So he was doing the programme we provided with him, he felt fit, he was getting leaner, he was packing on some muscle, and he was flying on the pitch. But that gave him so much energy and so much confidence that he wanted to do more. So he went online, started searching for more information about nutrition and training and all the rest of it. He ended up saying he got really confused and overwhelmed by how much different things there were. He got so confused that he gave up looking, and then when he was walking down his local street one day, he seen this sign for the boot camp and thought, you know what, that's easy to do, I don't have to think, I'll just go and do that instead. And that's what made him do it. Look, it was a lesson learned, but the point here is that this happens all the time, and maybe you've done this as well, where you've got a really good programme, you're following it, but then you just start to add more in because maybe a mate says, oh, try this workout, or maybe you see something online, or maybe you stop doing what you're doing because you start going online and seeing all this stuff bombarded at you. And more often than not, this stuff being bombarded at you is just marketing material by social media people or someone trying to sell something to you. And if you end up buying one of these PDFs that are often on sale, they're very generic, there's no coaching attached to it, and probably the biggest complaint I hear is there's no flexibility in these programmes. There's no one to say to you, well, you've got a midweek game, change this, or you didn't play at the weekend, do extra conditioning and this type of conditioning on this particular day without affecting your programme. These questions seem to be the questions that are causing a lot of players to go onto the internet and look for answers because they just don't seem to exist. And you know as well as I do, there's more information out there than ever before, but all the questions remain that I had 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago when there was very little information online, especially when I first started, so we had to guess what to do. So how do you make your training week easier? How do you remove the guesswork and make it super straightforward? Well, ultimately, you can do it and train all the fitness attributes you need for football, and you can feel fresh at game day. And you do that by just doing what the pros do. You follow a very simple weekly structured pattern. So in season and off season, you have 2 different training cycles and you follow them week to week. It should feel like Groundhog Day, but you should wake up each day knowing what you need to do on that day. You should know what you're training and what you're trying to get from that session. Is it a strength day? Is it a power day? Is it a full body strength day? Is it an upper body strength day? Is it a conditioning day? Is it just a top up session? Is it a recovery session? All these things should be plug and play with a little bit of flexibility to allow you to manipulate things if something comes up in your life when you can't make it to the gym, or you can't do your extra running, or you don't get minutes at the weekend, or a game's cancelled. You should have all these variables very easily in your mind in a set weekly structure and just follow the plan and you'll get results. That's what professional players do. The only difference is that they have professional performance coaches looking after it all for them, and the players just turn up and do it. But you can do that as well, and all you need to do is follow what I call the peak performance protocol. It's a very simple weekly structure. You'll see the in-season one here. It's at different phases, different themes on each day, and then you'll also see the off-season one, which of course doesn't have the weekend game, so you can go a little bit harder. What we'll try to do is manipulate how our body's stressed and how we train each part of our nervous system, our muscular system, and how we're able to do this while still making progress and still recovering in time and feeling really good on game day. Now this has to be followed very particularly, otherwise you're going to end up sore on game day, or you're not going to end up sore on game day, but you're not going to do enough to actually make improvements. And you'd be surprised that it doesn't take that much to make improvements, and that's why sometimes more is just more, as my old teammate found out when he pulled his hammy doing more for the sake of it when he was already making progress. So today's task is to look at the peak performance protocol. I want you to look at how this weekly setup is, and I want you to plug and play your own gym sessions and squad sessions in. Does it follow this structure? So all you need to do is comment yes or comment no. If you comment yes, that means that something has to change in the actual workouts that you're doing. Something's wrong because your weekly structure's fine. Something has to change with your either off-pitch habits or what you're actually doing in those sessions, because otherwise you wouldn't be here, because you would be having progress and looking and feeling how you want. If your answer's no, then that's brilliant, because then you just know by a simple plug and play and adapting how you approach your training week, you can make massive progress very quickly. Now this is how the pros train. They follow a very similar schedule. The only difference is they don't have work and studies and all the rest of it to deal with, and that's when the off-pitch habits, which we'll get to later, we'll discuss. But for today's task, try the peak performance protocol and comment yes or no below.